Welcome to week 30 of the cellblock Scorch. Rocket Man here once more as a substitute reader for Lost. The prompt this week came from Pesci and was an emphatic statement. Red is the color of blue. As far as I know, there isn't a separate title for this story, so you can consider the prompt to be the title. If I'm wrong, the administrators of Stella's Corps will have to retcon the actual title into the podcast description. A disclaimer before our start, there are some character names that I'm doing my best to pronounce. Am I pronouncing them the way Lost intended? I have no idea, but it should be close. This story also takes place partly in the Netherlands, and I am 100% certain that I am butchering some of the place names that come up in this story.
Hey guys, this is Bones with a quick editor's note. This Scorch is in first person, but it switches between two characters, both in first person, so it can be kind of hard to parse without the different fonts that Lost used in the original submission. So I've gone ahead and added a ding every time the POV switches between the two, and I thought I'd give you a heads up so you know what that means. Also, you probably noticed that we now have some music to go into our podcast. A little bit of an intro lead-in, as well as little indications of when the speaker is changing, and you'll hear some more for the outro as well. These were provided by Cricket on her guitar. We'll probably keep messing with it a bit, but I hope you enjoy hearing our nonsense as we come up with it. Without further ado, on to the Scorch.
I was always being scolded by my fashion-conscious sister for my lack of finesse with colors, but it wasn't my fault. I didn't have any choice in the matter. In my world, there was no difference between red and blue. They looked the same to me. So unless Mare helped me sort my clothes when I put them away, I was liable to end up wearing what I was told was red with unflattering shades of yellow, making for one bright outfit. I think that I was one of the lucky ones. Not being able to tell red from blue was pretty obvious, and I could get outside help to make sure I had the right colors. Some people had such tucked away different experiences, generally called DEs, that I wondered how they ever figured out that they always heard the key of A flat as F. Mare had pretty easy to recognize DE. To her, lemons and watermelon tasted the same. We're pretty sure that she tasted them both how everyone else tasted watermelon, because she eats whole lemons. Hopefully when she's older, she'll find the guy who also tastes lemons and watermelons the same. There didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to what you experienced different from the world. For a while, people were trying to say it was genetic, but that didn't hold up. There was no one in my family line who had seen colors wrong for at least 6 generations. My mom and dad's DEs both used to be that they smell sulfur in the same way they smelled lilacs. It was quite a shock for them when they went to Yellowstone for their honeymoon and they smelled the sulfur for the first time. I looked down at my suitcase and realized that as I was packing, I didn't keep it straight in my head what was blue and what was red. Now I was going to have to get Mare to help me. Mare, I need help! I don't know what's red and what's blue, I hollered while I waited for Mare to arrive. I continued to pack everything else I would need. I was leaving tomorrow for a trip to the Netherlands. I was visiting an exchange student that lived with us my senior year of high school. It had been 3 years, but I was sure that we would still be as close as ever. I'm here. Do you have the tape and marker ready? Mare asked as she leaned on the door frame. Yeah, they're right there on my bed next to the suitcase. Thanks. I'll get this sorted for you. You know you can always ask Lise for help. She wouldn't lead you astray. I know, but it's so much easier when I can get dressed in the morning myself. Okay, I guess you have a point. And with that, Mare started to label what articles of clothing were red and which were blue. I was lucky to have a sister to help me with this. Have you heard what the plan is from Lise? Mare asked as she put my newly labeled clothes back in my suitcase. I don't know when we're going to do things, but we've talked about where we want to go. I know we're going to go to the Van Gogh Museum, the Concert Bujau, the De La Mar Theater, the Foam. I rattled off while looking through my papers for the complete list. Oh, we're also going to the Rijksmuseum and the Hortus Botanicus, the Rembrandt House Museum, and the Jewish Historical Museum. I finished the list out reading from the paper I'd written them on earlier. Sounds like you guys are going to have a full schedule. It's going to be a busy 2 weeks. Yeah, it is. I'll be sure to give you a full report when I get back. I might even bring you back a souvenir. The Van Gogh Museum was one of my favorite places in all of Amsterdam, and I was lucky to have a job there. While I wasn't an official tour guide, I knew enough about the artwork that I was authorized to answer questions and give people small tours with the knowledge that I had as long as I didn't leave my area. Of course, I also had to mention that we had a more extensive guided tour that ran every half hour and took 50 minutes. This is actually a pretty effective way to get some people to pay the €95 that the tour cost. Others were satisfied with the amount of information people like me could give them, so we were making more people satisfied with their visit. Working here was also great because I had time to think while I worked. Every day, I'd try to come up with at least one more thing my DE could be. I'd ruled out anything to do with color long ago because I'm colorblind. When I was little and first learned that everyone didn't see the world with green being the only real distinct color, I thought this had to be my DE. My parents quickly crushed that, as they told me the colorblindness was not uncommon enough to be a DE. Since then, I'd been trying to find out what my DE was, but I had yet to be successful. And I wasn't the only one working on it. My older sister and my younger brother helped me with it too. When we were little, Emma was always coming up with outlandish things for my DE to be. She really was just trying to see what crazy things she could get me to do. But as we entered secondary school, Emma realized how distressed I was by the fact that I didn't know what my DE was, and she got serious. Wilhelm has always tried to help once he was old enough to come up with ideas. Even with all of us coming up with ideas, we had yet to figure out my DE. And now only Wilhelm was at home to help me when I got off my shift. Emma got married last year, so she wasn't there to help with our tests. But still, she sent me texts from time to time with ideas she or her husband came up with. It was during one of my musings on what my DE could be that two girls walked up to Filled with Poppies, the painting I was standing by. They were speaking English, but I could tell from their accents that one of them was a native, while the other must be visiting. "Excuse me," the native one said to me in Dutch, "but do you know about the history of this painting?" "I do," I responded. "Would you like me to tell you and your friend about it? I can speak English if you prefer." "That would be great," she said, switching to English. "Ray here doesn't speak Dutch very well, and it would be easier for her. Thank you." So I told them what I knew about Filled with Poppies, but I was admittedly a bit distracted the whole time. The girl named Ray was pretty, and she was listening with such attention that I almost didn't know what to do with it. After telling him about the poppies, I was able to tell him about some of the other paintings in the area. "He was really nice. He was pretty cute too," was the first thing Lise said to me when we left the room he was in. I couldn't disagree. He was super nice and cute, but there was something else. I felt like when I looked at the poppies with him talking to me, they were a brighter blue than before. It sounded crazy, even to myself, so I didn't say anything to Lise, but I knew that I wanted to come back and talk to that boy more. We finished going through the museum, and we went to a few other places that day, but I couldn't get him out of my head. It was weird, because it wasn't like he was outrageously good looking, and I couldn't even remember what his name tag said his name was. The Van Gogh Museum was my first day in the Netherlands, and I knew that I had to go back and talk more to that boy. For the rest of the week, whenever Lise planned downtime, I made my way to the Van Gogh Museum. Sometimes Lise came with me, and sometimes she didn't. I didn't care either way, was good with me. The first time I went back he wasn't there, and I was disappointed, but the next time he was there. I learned his name was Lux. This time he was in a different area, so I could easily talk to him about the art in this room. He even remembered me. After the second day he was there every time I went. Talking to him was natural, and he even let me practice my Dutch. He helped me how I could make it better. We talked about the art there. We also talked about ourselves. On Friday, I determined I was going to ask him to come sightseeing with Lise and me on Saturday. Lise was super supportive, and she came with me on Friday. She said she wanted to be there for moral support, but I think she also thought it would be funny to watch him say no. Surprisingly, he said he wasn't working after 11, so if it was all right, he could meet up with us then. I was so excited. When we left the museum, I didn't know what to do with myself. I wanted to scream and jump up and down, but I also didn't want to make a spectacle. As soon as we walked into Lisa's apartment, I let it out. Lise just looked at me endearingly, and I told her we needed to pick out a great outfit for tomorrow. I couldn't believe that I said yes. Ray was great, and talking with her felt so natural, but I don't know what possessed me to actually say I would go sightseeing with her and Lise. I had to figure out what to wear. I would get Wilhelm to help me pick out a nicely colored outfit when I got home. Wilhelm told me my shirt was dark red. I had gone with my black pants because I liked them the best. And then Wilhelm helped me pick out a color he told me I looked good in. I had thought my shirt was blue when Wilhelm first showed it to me, but I'd always had a real hard time determining between reds and blues. With my color blindness, they looked so similar. I met up with Ray and Lise at a cafe near the Van Gogh Museum, and we had a mid-morning snack. Ray complimented my shirt and said the color was so vibrant. When I looked at it, it did seem like it was a little more popping than it was this morning when I put it on. The day went splendidly. Lise had a schedule of where we were going and when we needed to get there. It was nice to not have to worry, and I was able to talk with Ray about whatever we wanted. She is so interesting, and I'm sad that she only is here for another week. I wish I could have more time with her. For the next week, I saw with Lise and also spent time with Lux. He actually asked me on an official date, and I was so surprised that I almost didn't answer. Luckily, I pulled myself together and told him that I would love to. I had the most wonderful time with him, and I was sad that I was leaving the Netherlands in 2 more days. When I talked to Lise about it, she suggested that we write each other once I was back in the States, and I have to say that it was a brilliant idea. I was nervous to ask him if I could write him, but I did it, and he said yes. Once I got back home, I wrote to him daily. He continued to be amazing, and he and Lise continued to do things together. They even introduced each other to the other friends. It was great to hear about their adventures, but I also wished I could be there. Too bad I had another year of school to finish. The day was finally here. Lise and I were at the airport waiting for Ray to arrive. She decided some time ago that once she graduated from college, she was going to find a job in the Netherlands. The fact that we had made our long-distance relationship official also might have had something to do with it. I was so nervous to actually see her again in person. Sure, we had talked, and we had video chatted, but to actually see her was putting me on edge. Lise noticed and made fun of me. She was in the middle of a jibe when I saw Ray coming down the stairs. My heart started pounding, and when she smiled at me, I thought there was nothing else in the world that I wanted. She seemed to make the world a little brighter. The next few months were great. I got to spend so much time with Ray. When we weren't working, we were together, and I noticed that I stopped worrying so much about my DE. I didn't really care anymore. I knew that I wanted to be with Ray for the rest of my life. When Lux proposed, I was so happy that I started to cry. It was the most perfect thing I could imagine. That night, when I thought about it, I realized his proposal was different from what I had always imagined. I'd always thought I would find the man with the same DE as me, and I would know from the moment we figured out that we both saw red and blue the same, that we would be engaged. But Lux's proposal was so much better than anything I'd imagined. Planning the wedding was a nightmare, because we wanted to get married in the Netherlands, but also wanted my family to be able to come. We planned it for a year out, so that all the arrangements could be made. My immediate family was going to come the week before the wedding, so they could actually meet Lux and his family. Then my extended family, who could make it, were going to start coming in the couple days before the wedding. I was so excited. I loved Lux so much. The time seemed to fly by, but at the same time it seemed to be moving at a snail's pace. Today is the day. I'm marrying Lux. I almost can't believe it's real. This is it. After today, I'll be with Ray forever. Most of the wedding is a blur for me. I don't actually remember much of what is said, but I do remember all the warm feelings I had. But the thing that stands out the most was as soon as we were officially wed and we broke our kiss. My view of the world seemed to change. Ray looked like she was seeing something different too. Out of the corner of my eye, where I used to only be able to see green clearly, another color was suddenly cutting through. Ray was looking at me like there was a mystery, and when I looked down, I saw why. My suit was a different color than I remembered it. It was a color I'd never seen before. Ray looked up at my face with wide eyes as she mumbled, "Your suit was blue." Then Mare, Emma, and Wilhelm stepped up to see if we were okay. Everyone had cheered for our marriage, but we were completely despondent to them. Ray repeated more clearly to our siblings, "But his suit was blue. What color is it now?" "Ray," Mare started gently, "whose suit's always been this color. Lux's suit was never blue. Wilhelm and I picked out this burgundy suit with him because we thought it looked amazing on him and it went nicely with the wedding colors." Ray looked at Mare with confusion for a moment, more than she looked at me. Then she said, "But if I can see red, that means, Lux, you're my soulmate." It took me a moment to process that. My whole life I'd written off my DE as something to do with color, but the matching DE to Ray the whole time. I looked at Ray with what I'm sure was the biggest, dopiest grin I'd ever made and kissed her again. Then we turned and acknowledged the crowd. Both our parents had tears in their eyes as they realized that without knowing it, we had found our soulmate.
inmates. This is Pacey with some quick judge comments. So you just listened to Lost's Scorch, and I just reread it, and I also read Cricket's Ember from that week. Cricket's was good, but it was a lot shorter, which is oftentimes a factor in my judgment. I like to give credit where there's more perceived effort, but that isn't always the case, obviously. But also, as we know, I love soulmate AUs, so it really didn't matter what Cricket was going to put in because Lost wrote a soulmate AU, so that was always going to win, And that's pretty much all I have to say about that. I hope everyone enjoyed.
Hope you enjoyed listening to that. As the winner of this week, Lost gave the prompt for week 31. The prompt is a song called Still Feel by Half Alive. You can look for it on YouTube or wait until next week. I believe the YouTube link will be included in the podcast description. Until next time, keep that fire burning.
The Cellblock Scorch is a production of Stellacore, an independent group of nerds sharing their obsessions with the world. We can be reached at thestellacore@gmail.com through comments on your podcast platform of choice, our Instagram, Stella_core, and at our YouTube, also called Stellacore. Feel free to check out our other productions on our YouTube channel or our cosplays on Instagram. If you would like to support our creative endeavors, you can give a one-time tip to the Ko-Fi of the writer of your favorite Scorches, or check out our Patreon, linked in the show notes. There, you can access the winning Scorches and episode transcripts for free, or sign up for Spark level support for $5 a month to gain access to all of the Scorch submissions.